If you're installing a LED kit on your slit lamp from Haag-Streit, they give you step-by-step directions on what you will need to do. And if you have a new style Chinrest, it's not that big a deal. But if you're upgrading from an old style Chinrest with a square top and the old cable and installing the new main cable, which you'll need to do with an LED kit, or if you're just installing a new cable on an old style square top Haag-Streit Chinrest, the more difficult part of the process is getting this thicker new style cable into the track. And in their directions, they say that one will need to enlarge the gap on the inside of the cover plate so that the newer, thicker cable fits into place. So they have a picture here, and what they're doing is they're opening up this lip to allow the thicker cable to slip in. But this plate is delicate, fairly delicate, and you have to be careful about prying open this lip, because you can break the weld off this plate and it will come off completely. I've done it a couple of times, so I realize that you need to stabilize this plate so that you can bend open this lip a little bit more to get the thicker cable in. So one way to do that is to keep this plate tight up against here. And one thing you could do is, well, this is what I do. This is a rod that inside the Chinrest. I have an extra one, and it fits behind. It fits in this space. There's something in here, and then on the other side, I've got a plate. This is aluminum, but it's thick, and this is to protect the surface and also as backing. And what we're going to do is keep pressure on both sides of this plate while we're bending it over. So we're going to stick this piece here on this side and this bar on this side, and then we're going to hold it together with some vice grips. And so we'll bend it, we'll attach the vice grips locked in. Now it's holding this bar on this side of the plate so that it will give it more stability. Now when you're prying this lip open, it's going to keep that plate tight. So you get a screwdriver or something and begin to pry open the lip. You can use either a screwdriver or any type of prying apparatus to bend this lip back. Now each side of this lip is going to be bent out, and everything in between, but the edge on here is going to be a little wider than the rest of it because it's the turn. So we're going to open that up a little wider than than the rest of it. And just go on each side of the vice grip, and then move your vice grips over so you can open up the side, the edge that the vice grip was covering. So just go on each side of it and pry it out a little bit. And if you're getting too far away from your vice grip, you might want to move it over a little bit. So you're keeping pressure on that plate. We're going to move it over. So you can test it to see if it's fitting in, if you've done it enough. If it's not done enough, you'll have to do it more. You're just going to have to determine how wide you need to open it up to get your cable inside. So we're going to open it up a little bit more. One thing you can do is start to squeeze your cable inside to see if you've got it wide enough, opened enough. Now if you did this without prying it open, you might pop that lip, that plate. You've got it all the way in. Go ahead and tighten this plate now that it's in its final spot, and make sure it's straight when you do it. I'm going to loosen it a little bit so that I can turn it. Nice and straight. Now I'm going to tighten it up. Now these screws have pretty thin slits in them, so you're going to have to get a screwdriver that has very thin slits to fit in there. Once you have it in, now it's time to close that lip up a little bit, or else it's going to come back out. So we're going to use the same process of stabilizing that anchoring weld while we pry closed. So we'll do the same thing with our vice grip. And when we're biting against this plate. We're not biting against the metal. See, with this protecting plate, we're not going to be bending this top plate. So once again, go on each side of the vice grips, and then move your vice grips when you need to. So when you're done, this may not look all that pretty, scratching the paint and everything, but that's okay because you're not going to see that. But it's tight. Our cable is tucked inside, and it's going to stay in once we reinstall it into the top of the Chinrest. And we look on the other side, and it's clean. There's no marks from the pliers or the vice grips because we were on top of the bar, so it's nice and clean. You have a nice, clean, professional looking job. Now the next step is installing it back into the top of the Chinrest. Remember, you have to go underneath the bar, and then there's a pin sticking right here. You've got to go underneath that pin and then go down to the tube. You're going underneath, and that pin, you're going underneath and then through. And see, the reason why this needs to be tight and enclosed is because your carrier is going to be moving back and forth, and if it's not all the way to the edge and crimped in holding, then your movable fixation will be hitting it, and it's going to restrict its travel. So that's why it needs to be crimped in tightly. So we're going to install our cable going underneath. Don't start putting it through until you've pulled a lot of the cable through. We're still holding to the edge, and there's that pin. We have to go underneath it. So once you've got it in a good amount of ways, then you can feed the cable through the rest of the tubes of the Chinrest. Going to turn these to minimize the area that could get caught while it's going down. If you wanted to loosen the screws on your headband so that they won't interfere with the cable going through, that could be helpful too. And also, see this screw out here that's holding the tube, if you loosen that a little bit, that'll give you more room for your cable to slip through while it's going through. Once it's all the way in, then you can tighten that screw back up. You can pull the cable on the other end and pull it through as it's getting close. Remember, cable's going to have to go underneath that pin. So the other more difficult part is to be able to get this top plate cover all the way over so that your screws line up. And you can try to push it, pull your cable tight, keep lining it up and trying to get your screw in, but it might be kind of hard. So something you could do is use a pipe clamp to hold this cover in place by clamping both sides, clamping the cover to the edge and keeping that tight so that your holes line up, because these screws have very fine and delicate threads, and it's easy to cross thread them and your screw not going in straight. So if you can keep this top cover straight and your screws going in straight, that's the best way. So I'm going to hook up a pipe clamp here. Okay, I've installed a pipe clamp. This cover is just a little bit wider than the top, so when you're putting the pipe clamp on, you want to put it on this edge, and then on this side you don't want to put it on the edge. You want to go down a little bit to put it underneath so that it's pushing the cover into place. If you had your pipe clamp up on top, it wouldn't be helping you. So you've got to bring it a little lower so it would go past the edge to line up your screw holes. And once you have it lined up, you can insert your screws. They should be going in easily. If not, then they might not be lined up correctly. So don't tighten it all the way. Just back off until you get all 4 screws in, and then you can tighten them up. By turning it over, then I can look at the screw hole alignment and fit the screws in here while the pipe clamp is keeping everything moved over. You'll know you've got it straight when the screws go in very easily. You know you're not cross-threading, and they fit flat up against the cover. Once you've got all the screws in, you can go ahead and tighten all 4 screws and release your pipe clamp. So you'll know it's in right when you move your carrier to both sides and it's a clean stop. You're not hitting your cable. Make sure you tighten your screw back up that you loosened. The instructions go on to tell you how to finish, going through and down and attaching if you have a plate down here to attach it. But you might not. Yours might not be like that. And then we come to the next stage of attaching the plug on the end and also finding your 4th wire. You need a ground wire for your fixation, because the one coming down from the top is your hot, so you need some kind of ground. Hopefully your Chinrest has a ground that you can attach your wire to be the missing fourth wire. Um, you may not have that. You may have nothing. You're going to have to install some kind of grounding. One way you could do it is on this side, underneath the cover, you could scratch a little place. You have to scratch the paint off, and you can drill a hole and tap it for a screw and install your own ground wire up here. It will be hidden because the cover will be on top. So that's one way to do it professionally. And when it comes down here, since there's no metal to hold the cable down, you could run your wires through a large piece of heat shrink and then glue it with some super glue to hold it down, to keep it nice and clean and tight with your 4 wires. I've seen some people rigging up a ground wire so that it attaches somehow to the clamps or the brackets. Whatever you need to do a good job, and one that will provide an adequate ground for your fixation. And then you will be installing your plug. Now I'm not going to show you how to do that on this video. There's another video out there on installing a new style cable onto a Chinrest, and it goes into more detail about installing your plug and your amp pins and all that. So I'm not going to do that on this video. Hopefully you already know how to do it, or you can look at that other video that might give you some hints on how to install your amp pins into your plug that comes with the kit. So those are the challenging parts on this LED kit. And now if you have a new style Chinrest, it's almost plug and play. You don't have to do any of this stuff. But if you have an old style Chinrest, it's a little more effort to replace the cable to make it, to upgrade your slit lamp from a incandescent to an LED. So here's just some little notes. Remember to pull your cable out about 42 centimeters or 16.5 inches, the length, so it will not conflict with your new cap. And if you wanted to drill a hole for your ground, this would be you could use a drill bit, and for a 3mm screw, this would be the tap, and that's what we used over here. And this is the number of a terminal for the ground. It's a TopCon terminal, if that was important to you. So in summary, if you're going to be installing an LED kit on an old incandescent slit lamp, and you have the old style Chinrest, just these little things might help you to install that new cable into the top of that square top Chinrest. If you have a round top Chinrest, even old style, it's much easier.